Across all of media, there's something we hate about a series. The first 2 Shrek movies being absolutely brilliant, and then there's the third one. The fact that Rent-A-Girlfriend is still alive. And for One Piece, it's having worst arcs. And pacing, of course, but people say it's only from the anime. Some of the most acclaimed worst arcs are Syrup Village, Long Ring Long Island, and Punk Hazard. Now the first 2 I already talked about on this marathon, and I haven't gotten to Punk Hazard yet, so I won't talk about that. But there's another arc, one that was promised all the way back in post-Enos Lobby, that finally came to life with massive disappointment, being Fishman Island. And although these claims can't be true, I honestly didn't think it was a bad arc. In my ranking, it would be like a low B tier or high C, but that's not bad at all. And so I want to figure out why people hate it and see if I can defend these claims. And so, as I watch everything One Piece, this is Fishman Island. One of the biggest reasons why people hate Fishman Island is the pacing. Now I know this is a little cheap knockout. The whole anime has horrible pacing, which I know isn't like a Hot Wings intense spice take, but even some of the acclaimed best arcs, Marineford, Enos Lobby, at the beginning, they have horrible pacing too. Enos Lobby, the beginning's kind of mid until Luffy activates Gear 2. Marineford, at the beginning it's just them clashing a bunch until Luffy and all his buddies finally show up and it gets good. It's just how these go. Some start off good, and some don't. And is Fishman Island this way? Yeah, a little bit. Even the beginning of Fishman Island's slow. And it's slow at first because the danger of getting to Fishman Island, and how only the few are able to get there. And then when they do, there's like another 5 episodes of them just hanging out and exploring Fishman. And then finally the conflict happens, which isn't towards Fishman's favor. It has been a long time since the whole Straw Hat crew can just explore an island. Since the last time it did this was probably Sabaody. But even then, Sabaody immediately had the conflict happen. And so back to Fishman, we would then see some misunderstandings. Luffy just steals the princess for a little bit. She cries. I'll explain that later. Sanji's whole time here is just trying to get mermaid pussy. I'll explain that to you later. And then finally, Fishman gets better around the time to talk about the backstory. And when my first thought was the backstory is a little too long. It had so much in it though. Just the story of the queen. Jinbei had a backstory in it. So did Arlong. And then someone new who passed away, Tiger. And this random girl was here with her Animal Crossing stare. After the backstory, Sanji does his iconic line.
If you're so sorry, kill yourself.
There's distress because the villain of the story. More about him later. The Straw Hats look cool. They show off their powers. And pretty much everybody had a cool upgrade to them. But I'm still confused about what Zoro's is. He just is more powerful. That's his new skill. Maybe hockey. And after being so cool and see Luffy's new attack, which I already seen it, it's cool. He defeats the villain, and then they celebrate, and then the last episode is just them about to drown. Sure, Fishman Island doesn't need around 50 episodes, but the whole pacing is about kind of the pre-time skip days. So even if the pacing's bad per se, even if the whole anime is like this, as I keep saying, it has its reasons too. And after the pacing, we move on to a more intriguing conversation to say with the characters. These were the big 3 that had the worst personalities to say. The villain, the princess, and then Sanji. So after being stuck with a bunch of drag queens for 2 years, Sanji's been more ravenous. And so as such, when he was super excited about coming to Fishman Island all the way back and posting his lobby, he got his wish. And so he skips his dream of finding the all blue. Is now him just trying to get some more musi. As such, this character was assassinated fast in this arc. And I was thinking about it, I was like, huh. And I heard about this, so I decided to do a counter of how many times he does this. And so I have an estimated guess of 8 nosebleeds and 30 times he was being thirsty redditor, which is far less than I thought, but seeing how most of his screen time was the beginning and end, and of course telling Jinbei to kill himself, it really does prove everyone's case of Sanji being an annoying prick in this whole arc. It may be because I have more of a spice tolerance to this, but I've seen this throughout the real world. The internet is far worse than what I've seen from Sanji. So maybe Sanji being like this feels more tamed. The second character, Wimpy Hoshi, just cries a lot. It gets very annoying real quickly. There's a reason why Luffy just calls her Wimpy. I mean, it kind of makes sense for her. She's been stuck in her room this whole time because of some Minecraft YouTuber just wants to marry her for ever since she was a little.
No matter how far I search along this vast sea floor, I will never find another as big and beautiful as you, my dear.
Because turns out, she's an ancient weapon where there'll be a mermaid princess who'll be able to have the powers to control the Sea Kings. And so, Dr. Fish Respect over here wants to marry her to gain that power. And because of his devil fruit, she's forced to stay up here for the rest of her life. And if I'm being completely honest, I'm more annoyed by the pedophile fish. The fishophile. Like, sure, she is annoying, and she's just a damsel in distress at the end of the arc. She still has a nice bond with Luffy. She's not crying 24/7. She's an alright character. The villain, though, he doesn't have a personality. So across One Piece, we had many kinds of villains. A racist, a guy trying to take down a kingdom, two of them, a lazy ass, and a Dunkin' Donuts employee. So what do we get this time around for Fishman Island? Another racist towards humans. Even then, he would still go out of his way to kill Fishman. So, for context with Hody, or in the English dub, he sounds like horny. His whole thing is, he got a little too inspirational from Arlong. And as such, his whole personality is just filled with anger, revenge, all towards the humans. Except the only difference is, he doesn't really see humans. Like, the most I can think of is during the backstory when a celestial dragon appears. He's just filled by a blind anger, and as such, that's his whole personality. But the difference between him and Arlong is, Horny Jones goes out of his way and murders other fishermen. Eventually, it's revealed that he was the one who killed the queen, and then forced to blame on a human, all just from his rage. If you're just viewing One Piece and you're just watching this for the first time, you're like, yeah, he is kind of generic compared to everyone else. I mean, from the other worst arcs, like Long Ring and Syrup Village, they had interesting characters. Boxy is just a goof who somehow got through the Grand Line. And Kuro was probably one of the best villains in East Blue. Even if an acclaimed pirate like him easily got swept by Luffy. I imagine there might be worse villains. Depends on what my opinions will be in the future arcs. So, all in all, Dr. Jones over here is just a mid-villain. Like, he's a tragedy, yeah, just being filled by anger, but that's just all he is. And so with all this, the arc ends with Luffy activating his Falcon Punch, defeats Horny, and they have a nice little party and celebration. Wimpy Hoshi gets him a adult as a cute little pinky promise. And then in the last episode, they almost drowned because of Luffy's stupidity. But hey, there's whales!
Sperm whale!
Then they pull a G8 where they link the ending to a filler arc. A filler arc that's just all about Film Z. All of this does seem like I may not like Fishman Island. So I do agree with some of these points, but that's just how media is. I know this is a little softball of an answer, but nothing's perfect. Some of the best stuff still has its problems. Even One Piece has this. And with Fishman Island's case, yes, those problems are very noticeable, but I like the arc. It felt like the East Blue again. The very simple times of them just going to an island, looking around, somehow causing conflict. They fight the villain, and they just head on to the next one. So this arc was just East Blue time skip, to say. And just like every bad arc, it still has some story-changing events here. Robin finds another poneglyph. Big Mom originally had this island, but then Luffy declares it as his own, not only foreshadowing Big Mom and her fat bastard design, but also creates a rivalry, even with all these mild complaints. Fishman Island is like a classic fish and chips meal. It may not be groundbreaking, but it still has a good taste to it that brings back memories.